What's going on, weenies? Welcome back to Wiener Workouts. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Now, I don't usually post videos like this. It's not typically my style. But when I saw the video that Joe Rogan posted, man, I just felt like he was asking for it. So today we're going to be criticizing one of his clips where he said that he apparently went vegan. Now, before I jump into the clip, I think it's important for me to give you guys a little bit of context before we actually start criticizing what Joe Rogan and his guest have to say. So Joe Rogan brings on this guy named Donnie Vincent, and Donnie Vincent is a fellow hunter like Joe Rogan. The only difference here is that this guy is kind of proud to be a hunter, and don't take my word for it, look at his website. Here on his website you can see that the man is a biologist and he's somewhat of an explorer. He's been all over the world, that sort of stuff. But if you read a little bit deeper, you can also see here that he's proud to be a hunter. And if you go through any of Joe Rogan's past podcasts, you can also see that he's quote-unquote a proud hunter, whatever that means. But we'll get into that in a little bit. So again, now that you guys are presented with that information, let's jump into the clip.
Depending on who you ask, 95 or 90%, 97% of the population eats meat. And the percentage that actually kill that meat themselves is incredibly small. It's probably like 1%.
Sure.
You know, I mean, I don't know what it is. It might be a little bit higher than that, but it's no more than 5.
Okay, so right off the bat, Joe Rogan goes into the numbers and figures of how many hunters there are in the world. So if we just do a quick Google search of how many hunters there are, let's say, in the United States, we can see here that there's about 14 and a half, maybe even 15 million if we're rounding up, hunters that are licensed to hunt in the United States. Joe Rogan also said that there's 1% of the population in the world and maybe not even exceeding 5% of people that actually hunt. So if we were to do the numbers for the United States, we would just take 15 million, divide that by 321 million, and we get about 4.67%. So let's round up to about 5%. So his numbers are actually pretty accurate. With that being said, there's a very small amount of people in this world that actually hunt for their food. So we have to take it under consideration that the majority of the world isn't hunting to get their meat. And just before we go any further into the video, I want to address that first point that I brought up about Donnie Vincent, about how he's a proud hunter. Whatever that means. Like seriously, what does that mean? Are you proud that you took the life of an innocent animal? Are you proud that you snuck up behind it 30 feet away and shot it in the head? Did you accomplish something by shooting an innocent animal? What is it that you're so proud of?
And there's a lot of people that are just on the fence, and they're just sitting there going, well, I eat it, but I don't kill it myself, but I somehow or another am angry that someone's doing it themselves.
Now, Joe Rogan is pretty spot on about this next point here, because a lot of people don't know how to feel about where their food comes from. They even have mixed emotions about how their food is made. And honestly, we can just chalk it up as cognitive dissonance, right? And be done with it. Because these people have inconsistent beliefs. They don't know how to feel. They don't know what to feel. Because the things that are going on are cruel. And for the most part, they don't see it happening. So if they did it themselves, I think they'd feel a lot differently.
Like before I ever thought about hunting, my thoughts about hunters were that they were cruel people that like to kill animals. Why would you kill animals? It's not necessary. You can buy meat from a store. This is the very shallow thinking that I had, decades ago.
Yes, I am so glad that he just said that, because it shows that he was ethical. It shows that he's thinking about these issues. It's showing that there's a problem here and that he's addressing it.
Then, as I started getting older and really considering what I do with my body and what kind of food I put in, and then the internet was a big one, because the internet came along and I started watching those videos that a lot of them that PETA puts up of factory farming.
Oh,
and
terrible.
It's horrible. It's not just terrible. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, this is like human beings at their very worst.
It's painful to know that he's having these thoughts, but he's not acting them out appropriately. Like his ethical principles are not matching up with his behaviors. He understands and he comprehends that the animal agriculture industry is simply a byproduct of human greed, and that these industries treat animals with cruelty. How can somebody with this information still contribute to it?
Like that we've treated these things as like the most I mean, not just as a commodity, but we've ignored their feelings and their thoughts and the fact that they have instincts and needs, and that we've stuffed them into these tiny little cages. It's a sickness.
I feel somewhat indifferent about what Joe Rogan is saying right here, because on one end, he has this acknowledgement of sentience for those animals. He sees that they don't want to go through any pain or suffering, and that they actually do have a will to live, that they're sentient creatures, right? Like us. But then on the other end, it just seems like he's paying lip service. He's saying, oh, these animals, they have all these things, but you know what? I still want to hunt them because I need my protein. You see the problem there?
Then you see the cruel, inhumane treatment that some of the people that work there, and people that work in farms will tell you, look, this is very rare, and these are isolated instances, and this is terrible. That's well and good, but
again, it's hard for me to understand how somebody with all this knowledge is still contributing to a cruel industry.
There's also ag-gag laws that prevent people from filming, agricultural gag laws that prevent people from filming on these factory farms because they don't want people to know how horrific those conditions are. So there's some truth to it. I mean, maybe they're isolated instances, maybe it's a small percentage of the farms that do treat their animals like that, but it's significant enough that they're worried about the impact on the economy to the point where they're passing laws that keep people from filming and showing people what it's like in these places.
He just mentioned ag-gag laws that are present in today's society. Why would an industry that's so proud of making quality meat not allow people to film the process of how meat is made? Why are they hiding something if they're so proud?
You can even just show people without any abuse. Just show what's going on. Just even a still photo of how they're living.
Yeah.
And you're not going to want to consume the food. And the people that they think that these animals were raised this way, right? They're cows, they're bovines, they're big, dumb animals. They were bred for this. Who cares? They have no idea what's going on until that spike hits them, or they get electrocuted, or they get their throat slit. But if you have any wherewithal at all, if you have any being, any soul at all, and maybe this is the wrong idealization or the wrong picture I'm building in my head, but if you make yourself the cow just for a second, if you remove yourself just for a freaking second and just say, like, is this how I would want to be treated? Is this how I would want to live? Is this how I would want to die? Then you start to ask yourself some pretty big questions that are relatively easy to answer. And we have a lot of people on the earth right now, and it's going to continue until something big happens. But if you can remove yourself from your own ego and from your own comfort and try to visualize at all what these other animals are going through, even animals you're hunting, it's going to make you better and more cognizant of being ethical and treating everything with absolute care, even in killing it.
Oh my God. Dude, you were doing so well. You honestly had me convinced up until you made that last comment. Even when we're killing them. Like, you were empathetic. You knew what it was like to be in the cow's shoes. You can feel the pain and suffering that they're going through. And you end it all with that. Like, come on, man. You're just paying lip service at this point.
I've been that person. I've been that meat-eating person who thought that hunters were cruel.
Yeah.
I've been that person. I get it. I know where they're coming from. And I've considered vegetarianism. And when I was fighting, I was a vegan, or a vegetarian rather, for, I guess I was probably considered vegan. I don't think I was eating any cheese, and I wasn't drinking any milk. But I did that for like 6 months. It just didn't agree with me. I mean, maybe I didn't do it right, and I never did it again. But I was doing it to try to lose weight. When I was also not eating enough. There was a lot going on there because I was trying to fight at a low weight class.
Sure.
But a lot of people do it, and they do it well, and it works for them.
You know what? I actually believe that he did go vegan for 6 months. At first, I thought, this guy's just lying. He's trying to just say something edgy and cool. But I honestly do believe that he did go vegan for that amount of time, because I have a lot of friends that wrestle, and when they wrestle, they have to drop their weight. And some of them cut out meat and dairy because, it carries a lot of weight inside your stomach. So they would just eat plants all the time. On that note, I actually do believe Joe Rogan in that he went vegetarian or vegan for 6 months. Also, there are a lot of vegans out there who initially went vegan simply to lose weight, myself included. I mean, we didn't think about ethics at all, so maybe Joe Rogan's in the same boat. The only thing that bothers me about the statement that he made is when he said he wasn't doing it right. Just for the record, any type of veganism is the right kind of veganism because you're reducing the most amount of suffering as much as reasonably possible. You're cutting out meat, dairy, eggs, and any sort of animal product, right? So it doesn't matter what kind of veganism you're doing, even if you're eating junk food, you're still doing the right kind of veganism. Now, you guys probably haven't even noticed this, but they've been shifting through their arguments pretty quickly without them even realizing it. First, they discussed the ethics. Then, they moved on to the health. And now, they're finally onto the environment, which is probably the bulk of their conversation. So, let's hear what they have to say.
But they have to understand even that's not clean, man. Large-scale agriculture in terms of farming, that shit kills a lot of animals. It displaces a lot of wildlife. You're never supposed to have 1,000 acres of soybeans or 1,000 acres of corn or 1,000 acres of fucking wheat or anything.
Anything.
All that shit is fake. All that shit is something someone's put there, and when they're using pesticides, they're killing things, and when they're using those combines, they are grinding up bunnies and fucking rats and mice and killing countless bugs. So the idea that you're getting away without killing any sentient life, it's bullshit.
And even...
Yup, I totally agree with you, and I gotta give credit where credit is due. Crop farming is pretty detrimental to the environment, and there's absolutely no need for us to be making 1,000 acres of oats or soy or whatever. But the whole reason we're doing that is for the animals. There wouldn't be a need for 1,000 acres of soy if we didn't feed it to the livestock. So ipso facto, you get rid of the animal agriculture industry, you make a less impact on the environment. It's that simple. I mean, come on, man. Anybody with a basic understanding of philosophy can clearly see that this is an appeal to futility fallacy. Oh, well, you're using pesticides and, that's killing millions of insects. And when you're using the combine, you're still going to be running over all these rodents and rabbits. As if somehow that's supposed to justify the killing of cows, chickens, and pigs. What? You need to understand that veganism is not perfection, nor are vegans striving to be perfect. They're just trying to reduce the most amount of pain and suffering as much as reasonably possible. But to say that our efforts in trying to reduce it are futile is simply asinine. You also need to understand that we are aware of our own existence and that somewhere around this world, somewhere on this planet, we're causing suffering to somebody or something simply by us existing. We're aware of that. But to say our efforts into reducing it are futile is just ridiculous. Okay, I'm going to stop things here because at this point in the video, they just continue talking about the environment and how it's impacting the world and that sort of stuff. They don't really talk about veganism anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and stop criticizing his points. But if you like that style of video, then why don't you go ahead and leave a thumbs up, put a comment in the comment section below telling me about things that you want to hear, the criticisms that you want me to make, that sort of stuff, and I'll be sure to provide you guys with that sort of content. Other than that, always keep in mind, be a wiener, not a winner.
Derp, derpity derp 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 derpity derp 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 derpity derp 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 derpity derp 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 derp